I couldn't move, not even slightly. My breathing came uneven, suspended perfectly between hesitation and surrender. His presence behind me was a steady force, grounding, guiding without a whisper of pressure. I swallowed a sound that wasn't pain, just a pure and shocking intensity. Unfamiliar after so many years of deliberate silence, it stayed with me, warm and consuming, but not enough, not nearly enough to make me stop. I leaned back into it. I had lived untouched for so long, a fortress of my own making, and then, in a single heartbeat, I chose not to pull away to you. The person listening right now, have you ever met someone who felt like a question you were always meant to ask? A person who walked into your life quietly and rearranged the furniture of your heart without permission? This is a story about that, about the connection that finds you in the quiet, the one that isn't loud or obvious, but sinks into your bones and whispers that maybe, just maybe, you've been living half asleep. Lena hadn't planned on company that night. Rain tapped a gentle, persistent rhythm against her apartment windows, a sound that usually spelled solitude. She was folding a blanket on the couch, the room wrapped in soft shadows, lit only by the flicker of a single candle that smelled faintly of lavender and sandalwood. It was her kind of evening, tea warming her palms, an old black and white movie paused on the screen, a world where no one asked anything of her, where silence was a companion, not a sentence. Then her phone vibrated. A stark electric buzz on the wool of the blanket. It was Samira, her college friend, now a resident constantly pulled into the relentless current of long hospital shifts. Their friendship had become an archive of good intentions, barely spoken, sustained by the occasional message that served mostly to remind each other they still existed in the world. I'm stuck on a double shift. The text read, Eli's nearby, but his plans completely fell through. Could he possibly wait at your place for a while? He doesn't have anywhere else to go tonight. Lena blinked at the name. Eli, Samira's younger brother. The last time she'd seen him, he was a quiet teenager hovering at the edges of adult conversations, all sharp angles and shy smiles. A ghost from a noisier, more crowded past. Still, her thumbs moved before her mind could muster a protest. A reflex of a kinder time, of course. Send him over. It's no trouble at all. 30 minutes later, the doorbell rang. A soft chime that seemed to echo in the rain-hushed hallway. Lena opened the door with a polite, prepared smile, and the greeting died on her lips. The person standing under the dim hallway light was not the boy she remembered. Eli had grown, not just taller, but into his frame, a young man composed and still, with calm, watchful eyes that seemed to observe the world more than they revealed of himself. He wore a simple, gray hoodie, his hands tucked into the sleeves, and he offered a small, respectful smile that didn't quite reach those perceptive eyes. Hi, Lena, he said, and his voice was deeper, smoother than she expected, a vibration she felt more than heard. Eli. She breathed out, the surprise evident in the single syllable. I almost didn't recognize you. She stepped aside, the gesture feeling suddenly formal. Come in, you must be exhausted. He nodded, stepping past her, his presence subtly filling the space as he glanced around her living room. It feels peaceful here, he said quietly, almost to himself, like the walls themselves finally get to rest. She smiled, a real one this time. That's one way to describe it. I suppose I've built it that way. They settled on opposite ends of the couch. She offered him tea, which he accepted with a quiet thanks, and soon the movie was playing again. It had already started, but he didn't mind. He said he liked coming into stories midway, figuring them out as they unfolded. At first, Lena was hyper-aware of every single detail, the careful distance of her posture, the exact inches of cushion between them, the silent, heavy weight of the years that separated their lives. She was older, established in her solitude. He was someone she'd known in another time, a footnote in her history, and yet, something about his stillness, the way he watched the screen without fidgeting, without the need to fill the silence with chatter, unsettled her in a way that felt deeply unfamiliar rather than wrong. I like this, Eli murmured during a quiet scene, his eyes still on the screen. It feels honest, The way they're not saying everything, that's why I love it, Lena replied, her own voice lower in the shared dark. It doesn't rush, it lets things exist in the spaces between the words. He turned his head slightly toward her then. The candlelight catching the line of his profile. You do that too, she blinked. What do you mean? You don't force moments, he said, his gaze steady. You let them happen. That's rare. Most people are so busy orchestrating they miss the music. She didn't answer, because there was no answer. His words slipped inside a part of her she kept locked and found it already open later, reaching for the same bowl of almonds on the table between them. Their hands brushed. It was brief, unintentional, a fleeting spark of contact. But neither of them moved away right away. A half second stretched into a territory of its own. Something wordless and significant passed between them in that suspended moment. A current beneath still water. She told herself it was nostalgia. The quiet, the warm, closed-off world the rain had built around them. But the logic felt thin. Something fundamental had changed in the chemistry of the room when the movie's final credits rolled. Neither of them spoke. The silence was full, ripe, not awkward, but charged like the air before a summer storm. I should probably go, Eli said, finally checking his phone. Its light illuminating his face. It's late, Lena heard herself say, and it's still pouring. The guest room is made up. You should stay, he hesitated, not out of reluctance, but something more thoughtful. Would it be okay, he began, if we talked a bit first? I've missed places that feel like this. Conversations that aren't just noise. She nodded, a flutter in her chest, and led him to the kitchen, where a low lamp cast a warm, intimate glow over the table. They sat across from each other, hands wrapped around fresh mugs. The rain a constant soundtrack. I didn't expect to feel this comfortable, he admitted, his thumbs tracing the rim of his cup. Why not? She asked. I thought you'd still see me as someone passing through, a kid from your past, just waiting out a storm. She smiled faintly. Time changes more than we realize. It certainly changed you, he laughed, a soft, genuine sound, then grew quiet. Something in his expression shifted, turning inward and vulnerable. You okay? She asked, leaning forward slightly. I feel like I've been drifting, he said, the words coming out in a confessional rush. Finished school. Did everything I was supposed to. Checked all the boxes, but nothing feels like it fits. I'm present everywhere except inside myself, you know. Lena listened, truly listened. It had been a long, long time since anyone had spoken to her with that kind of unguarded honesty, without a filter or a desired outcome. Most people don't have it figured out, she said gently. Even when they're standing on stage pretending they do. Did you? He asked, his eyes lifting to hers. Have it figured out? She thought for a long moment, the question echoing in the quiet space between them. I used to think so. I had a plan, a path, then life changed the map. Now I'm learning the territory all over again. It's quieter this time. Their eyes held for a second longer than was casual. A silent exchange in the lamplight. I can breathe here, Eli said, his voice barely above a whisper. Like I don't have to pretend to be a finished painting when I'm still just sketches. She felt it too, the calm, the quiet. Terrifying recognition. I should sleep, he said finally. Rising from the table, he paused in the doorway, looking back at her. Thank you, Lena. I'm glad it was you who opened the door tonight. Good night, Eli. Lena stayed at the table long after he left for the guest room. Her tea had gone stone cold. It had been nothing, rationally, just a visit, just words in the dark, and yet her skin remembered the brief touch of his hand. Her chest echoed with the timbre of his voice, the quiet confessions. That felt like gifts. Morning arrived slowly, sunlight stretching long, pale fingers across the wooden floor as Lena tied her robe. Her thoughts were a tangled knot. No lines had been crossed, no promises made, no tangible transgression to point to, and yet, something undeniable had begun. A seed planted in the fertile dark of a rainy night. She was scrambling eggs when she heard his footsteps, lighter than she expected. Morning, Eli said, his voice still rough with sleep. He stood in the doorway, looking both younger and more solid in the daylight. Morning. Did you rest okay? Better than I have in weeks. Your silence is healing. They ate at the small kitchen table, a comfortable silence between them now, but one that carried the weight of the night before. Thank you, he said softly, pushing his plate aside. You didn't have to do all this. You were a guest, she replied. Automatically an easy one, I hope. He smiled, and this time it reached his eyes. That means more than you know, to be easy with someone later. Washing dishes side by side at the sink. The domesticity of the act strangely intimate, he asked. Can I ask you something? Something real. Of course, she said, her hands stilling in the warm water. Do you ever feel like life moved on, kept moving while you were busy doing all the right things? Like you looked up and the train was already halfway down the track. Her heart slowed, a deep, resonant ache blooming behind her ribs. Yes, she whispered. I forgot to ask myself what I actually wanted. I was too busy following the map. Do you know now? He asked, turning to look at her, his shoulder almost brushing hers. What you want? She hesitated, the truth rising, undeniable. I don't want to feel alone in a room full of people anymore. I don't want my own quiet to feel so heavy. He studied her, his gaze soft and unbearably perceptive. You don't seem alone, not to me. I learned how to hide it, she admitted. It was my best trick. His phone buzzed on the counter. Breaking the spell. Samira, he said, reading the text. She's on her way, 10 minutes. You should get your things, Lena said, turning back to the dishes, her voice strangely tight. He didn't move immediately. Lena, he said, and she turned. I like being here with you. It feels real. I'm glad, was all she could manage. The words feeling terribly insufficient at the door. Bag in hand, he paused. Could I come back sometime? Not because I'm stranded, just to talk. She met his eyes, the morning light showing the gold flecks in the brown. Yes, she said, the commitment thrilling and terrifying. I'd like that. When the door closed behind him, the silence that rushed back into the apartment wasn't peaceful. It ached. It was a presence now, not an absence. Days passed. Lena kept herself busy, her hands occupied, but every evening her gaze would drift toward her silent phone. She didn't return to that black and white movie. She couldn't. The memory of sharing. It was too vivid, too imprinted on the scenes then. On a Thursday night, a knock. Not a text, not a call, a firm, direct sound on her door. Her heart was a wild thing in her chest. As she opened it, Eli stood there, holding 2 paper cups of steaming coffee, a slight, uncertain smile on his face. I didn't text, he said. I wasn't sure if I should. You're always welcome, she replied, the truth of it shining through, and stepped aside. They sat on the couch again, but the distance was less, the coffee a prop for their hands. Conversation started light, the weather, a book. Then, as the night deepened once more, so did the talk, diving back into the waters they'd first tested. I still don't know where I'm going, he admitted, staring into his cup. But when I'm here, in this room with you, I don't feel like I'm failing. I just feel possible. You're possible, she said, her voice firm. You're not a failure. You're still becoming. We all are, if we're lucky. His eyes lifted and stayed on hers. A deep, unwavering connection. I wish more people saw the world like you do. I wish more people were like you. Silence settled. But this one was different, thick with everything unsaid. A precipice they were both standing on. Lena, he began, his voice dropping. Do you ever wonder what it would feel like? To be truly wanted again? Not for what you can do or provide, but just for the quiet you hold. The air left her lungs, a soft, sharp gasp she couldn't conceal. He leaned forward, just slightly, the movement careful, deliberate, giving her every chance to retreat. I've never felt this kind of pull before, he whispered, the words just for her. It isn't about timing or convenience or any logic I can name. It's you. It's this. Whatever this space is between us, we shouldn't, she whispered back, the weakest protest, her body already leaning toward his truth. I know, he said, so softly. It was almost a breath, but pretending it isn't there feels like a worse kind of lie, a lie to myself. He rested his hand on the couch, palm up, an open question, near hers, not taking, just offering. And Lena, after a lifetime of being careful, of following the map, of living untouched in her quiet fortress, didn't move away. To you, my dear viewers, if you ever offered someone a piece of your truth, something fragile and real you believed they'd never be brave enough to accept, what would you feel? In the moment they looked into your eyes and quietly, without a single word, said yes. Tell me in the comments. I truly want to hear your thoughts, your stories if this narrative, this moment of quiet surrender, stayed with you like it has with me. If you felt that ache of recognition, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. The next story might be the one that speaks directly to the hidden chapter of your own heart. Thank you for listening, for sharing this space. I'll see you in the next one.